U.S. records most overdose deaths in 1 year, and the pandemic is partly to blame, the CDC says. This is out of the Miami Herald. And so, while the country has scrambled to address the coronavirus pandemic by shuttering the businesses, limiting gatherings, people with substance abuse disorders have experienced unintended consequences. So more than 81,000 people died by overdose in the U.S. between June 1st and 2019 and May 31st, 2020, a new report by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention said. So that's the highest number of American overdose deaths ever recorded in a year. While overdose deaths were already seeing spikes before COVID-19 took over, officials say the latest numbers suggest an acceleration of overdose deaths during the pandemic, the agency said. So the disruption to daily life due to the COVID-19 pandemic has hit those with substance use disorder hard. CDC Director Robert Redfield said in Thursday news release, as we continue to fight to the end of this pandemic, it's important to not lose sight of different groups being affected in other ways. So we need to take care of people suffering from unintended consequences. So synthetic opioids, which this was talked about a lot before the pandemic, before COVID-19 was even an issue, and mostly illegally made fentanyl was the primary driver of the upticks in overdose deaths. So the report found use of the drug increased 38% from the 12-month period leading up to June 2019 compared with the 12-month period leading up to May 2020. So out of 38 jurisdictions that provide synthetic opioid data, 37 of them reported increases in opioid-related overdose deaths, according to the report. So while 18 of them unveiled spikes greater than 50%. So data also show that 10 Western states that saw, now this is pretty high. I was alarmed when I saw this, 98% increase in opioid involved deaths. That's crazy. 98, that's like not that far from 100%. That's crazy. So fentanyl in the healthcare setting is typically used to treat severe or chronic pain, but the medicine is often illegally sold as powders, eye drops, nasal sprays, or pills, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse. So drugs can make people feel extreme. This particular one, it makes them feel extreme happiness, drowsiness, nausea, confusion. But when abused, it can cause the breathing to slow down or even stop. And this lowers the amount of oxygen to the brain, causing a condition called hypoxia. And that leads to permanent brain damage, a coma, or even death. And so cocaine-related overdose deaths also have jumped by 27%. The report said, so likely because of co-use or contamination with illicitly manufactured fentanyl or heroin. So overdose deaths by psychotic stimulants or psychostimulants such as methamphetamine rose by 35%. So other substances have also been abused during this pandemic. A survey of 2,000 American adults conducted in March found that the longer people spent time lodged in their homes during lockdowns, the more they consumed alcohol, which liquor stores are constantly open and they have not been shuttered. So I noticed that even here in Los Angeles. They are doing well financially, I'm sure. Unfortunately, but with about a third of respondents admitting to binge drinking, McClatchy. Okay, hopefully I said that name right. News reported. So among the binge drinkers, the odds of consuming heavy amounts of alcohol jumped an extra 19% for every week of lockdown. And so, sounds like anxiety, fear, anger, frustration from being locked down, and who knows what else is going on. Because I've also, and I'm adding this in here, heard that domestic violence has gone up, child abuse has possibly gone up, and that goes hand in hand with domestic violence. And then you also have other issues that are going on with people. Maybe they're afraid to go to the doctor to get checked out, or there's long waits because they're dealing with all this COVID stuff that they can't get an appointment right away, and they may be sick with something else. And if they get to the hospital, they have to wait, and there's no beds available, and they could die of something else other than COVID. So I've heard of all of these things happening. So back to the article, it says the CDC said it's important to expand awareness about substance abuse disorder and availability of treatment. So not all overdoses have to end in death. The agency said everyone has a role to play. And so this is pretty sad because this might have an answer as to why there's also other deaths outside of COVID that are happening um, more frequently. So, having said this, I'm going to let this video go. Thanks for listening.